Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name's Hannah. I'll be leading today's Wednesday workshop. Feel free to drop your guys' questions into the Q&A. I know that I've heard some whispers that we might have a lot of questions to get through today, so I might be talking a little bit quicker than I normally do. If there's anything you guys want me to recover again, or you're like, wait, can you explain it again? Definitely feel free to pause me and be like, wait, explain it again. Good morning and welcome in. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and get started. So it looks like we've got a question already. Can you set up to automatically link your contacts with FUB, or do you have to go into each individual transaction and add the API? So really great question. We've had some alterations to that FUB integration. So I'll really quickly kind of give like an overview of it, and then we'll go and we'll take a look at what that looks like as well. So as you guys know, we've had some updates to Follow Up Boss. Your first step to make sure that those updates are kind of set up correctly for you guys is by going into your organization and users, going over to your users that have permissions, and just making sure that a specific area in their system is selected. We're looking for that Follow Up Boss profiles. What this is going to do is it's going to give access to be able to add those people, to give them access to the other APIs that might be in your admin account. Okay. So instead of having to add them into every single person's account individually, now we can share it across the permission set. Okay. So as long as we've got this selected here, our next step is going to be going over to that Follow Up Boss integration, heading into apps and API, going down to manage profiles under Follow Up Boss, selecting current connections or adding in a new one if we need to, but current connections is going to show us what's currently connected. We can click on this little person icon and we can give access to those particular party members. So I said content team, you have access to our APIs. Here I'm saying content team, when they log in, that person logs in, they're going to be able to have access at this for this particular API as well. So this is basically just giving them access. So these are the first initial setup steps that you want to give them to, or that you want to set up so that that way everyone can see what they need to see in the account. Now that we've confirmed that this has been added on here, we can close out of here and we can head down to a property. I think that this property, West Main Street, doesn't have any integrations connections just yet. We might have to go to a different one, but I think this one should work. So we'll click on this one. Now, once I get into this property, I'm going to either want to click on the little Follow Up Boss icon up here, or I can go to more and then go to Follow Up Boss here. Just depends on what your click path is. This one's a lot obviously easier. We just added this in. So if you're like, oh, that's new. Yep, you're completely right. That's totally a new feature. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then here it's going to prompt me to add those APIs. So to answer your question, Katie, yes. When you go to that Follow Up Boss, or when you go to that property after it's been created and you go to link it to the different APIs that you need, from this point on, you do need to go through and you need to connect those ones. Now, obviously, when we click on connect APIs, the main difference between what it looked like before and now is that before you would see them there and then you kind of would go into, whether you want to sync to your contacts or your deals or your widgets. Now you can be a little bit more, you can have more intent behind who you're connecting to and what you see there. I know that for some users, they just want to see the agent. So let's pretend that Christina is the agent connection. I would say add, and now I only have to worry about connecting to Christina. If I go back here, let's say I only wanted to see our main admin account. Now that I've selected add for that, now I only see the main account, right? So the other idea is that, you're going to be able to have access to a ton of different APIs. We've had a lot of clients recently say, oh, well, my agent's connected, right, through the integration. It's assigned to them, so it's connected. But I have an additional agent who I also need to connect to their API and push information into their Follow Up Boss onto their contacts. Having this ability to add on other APIs, whatever's in that organization, that's what's going to save you or give you that ability to be able to add on more than just one agent's connection. You can add on multiple. Once we've made this connection, now we can go into contact sync. We can search for those particular contacts. We can go into deal sync and we can either push the deal into that account or attach it to in a deal that's already existing. We can also sync it to the widgets. The other thing that we can do with this particular integration, now that we have it set up, is we can push over tasks from open to close into Follow Up Boss. Katie, that was everything on your question. Let me know if you have any other questions when it comes to connecting them to open to close or connecting them to a property. But if you guys are interested, I can, sure. Yeah, we can talk about the widget. Perfect. So let me go over to a property that has like a better example of the widget. Let me go over into this Ivy Lane one. I'll go back over into that follow-up boss. I'm going to click back on that same wall. Let me see. I think I want to say I have one for the CS one, but I might, let me see. Okay. Just grabbing what I have, just grabbing my follow-up boss too, so that I have that up there as well. Here's John Doe. I have him up here. When we're talking about the widget, so contact sync, when I click on contact sync and I have a contact added underneath here, I'm going to go ahead and add in John Doe. I have the ability to sync over the emails, text messages, and notes. This is just pushing that information over from open to close into follow-up boss. I also have the ability to push over the field data. When I go to push over the field data, that's like pushing it in. It's basically taking the fields here and coordinating it with the fields underneath the custom fields area in follow-up boss. The other way that we can push information over or make it so that our agents can see the information is by using that widget as well. When it comes to setting up the widget, the first thing that we're going to want to do, search for the contact that we're connecting it to, right? So it's not going to be like typing in the buyer agent's name or the seller's name, not any of your agent's names. You're talking about searching for that particular contact. What we're wanting to achieve is we're wanting to push over some information from open to close to a widget that shows up within follow-up boss on that contact. So now that I've searched for John, I'm going to go ahead and say add. Once he's added on here, we're going to want to set a role. Now, what does that mean? Because we see roles in other areas of the system. What does it mean for this particular area? When we're talking about setting up a role here, we're saying specifically what information do we want to push from open to close into that follow-up boss widget. So I have two right now. I have a follow-up boss agent and limited follow-up boss agent. When I click on manage roles, it's going to pull those roles open for me. And now I can see what permissions I have for them. When I click on permissions, this is going to show me what information can I push from open to close into follow-up boss. If I were to select FUB agent as the role for this particular contact, they're going to get access to all of this information. They're going to be able to see the timeline, the details, contacts, documents, uploading and downloading them, tasks that are completed, and the notes that are shown, the notes that are available. If I go to limited, you can see here that it only gives access to timeline details, documents, uploading, and downloading, but they don't see the tasks. They don't see any notes, and they don't have access to the contacts. So you're kind of determining what information do I want to push over? What do I think is going to be helpful for my agent to see in their account, right? Here's where you're going to be adding in that name. You don't need to add in buyer, seller, anything like that. It's really just that follow-up boss. Oops, sorry, I clicked on the wrong one I have in my drop down. It's really that follow-up boss agent permission set. What do we want to give them access to see within follow-up boss? What information do we want to push over? Since I already have roles there, I'm just going to go ahead and click on set role and select one of them. If you do not have a role just yet, it's going to ask you to create a role. When you go to create it, like I said, I would name it something like this. I'm going to go ahead and click FUB agent. Now that I've have that selected, when I go back into open to close, or sorry, when I go back into follow-up boss and I go to that contacts page, here I've got this widget. Now, if you guys are having issues finding the widget's not showing up for whatever reason, you might need to scroll down to the bottom. It looks like there's some silliness happening here with this. Can I edit this and delete that GIF? Let me see if I can. Cool. Okay, good. Got rid of that just because it was blocking up some of the screen. The widget might be down here at the very bottom, right? You might need to grab it and drag it up to the top if you need to, or move it around. If you don't see the widget at all, definitely check underneath, and we might have to do this together. I believe it's underneath admin, and then I believe it's underneath integrations. We obviously want to make sure that our open to close integration is connected. Embedded apps, we want to make sure that that's got that check mark next to it, and that one's good. I want to say there was another one that we wanted to make sure too. That's our APIs. Maybe it was just that one. I think it's just that one. Yeah, I think that's the That's specifically the one that we want to make sure. So underneath admin, integrations, we want to make sure that open to close has that little check mark. Heading back over to our person, when we go to look at that information, we can click here, open to close, the widget's loading. I can say go back to properties and I can choose the property that I was just on was the Ivy Lane one, but you can see here that I've got other properties that I've connected John to. So if I needed to review any of the older properties that he was connected to, I just click on that property. As long as he has that role set, this is the information I'm going to see. Heading back to property, when I click on that Ivy Lane, here we can see that we're already selected on the timeline. This is just all the details, the dates that are kind of already set up on that property. What I want you guys to take notice of is that when you're on that property and you click on that little timeline button, the dates here match the dates here. As long as we're giving access to those dates, right? We have them selected. We say we want to show them in the portal. So what I mean by that is, in your field editor, as long as you have that purple star selected to show in the portal, then it's going to show there. But the details here, this is the timeline, pushes over from open to close into follow-up boss. If they need to look at the details, they can go to details. Here they can see the details. One moment. Sorry about that. For the details, it's just going to show all the field sections. So here we can click on, here we can see Jana, we can see the address, we can see the earnest money details, property details, appraisal details. Basically, they can see all of it. So these are the things you want to consider when you're giving them access to it. You want to figure out, okay, well, do they need to see all of this? If they don't need to see all the details and they just need to see the timeline, then when we go to set up that permission set on that follow-up boss widget here, and we go to manage roles, we go to that one, we just want to delete where it says details. If we remove that, they're no longer going to have access to those details. If timeline is the only thing that matters, they just need to see the due dates. This might be a good opportunity to alter that permission set. The other option that they have is documents. So they can see these are the document folders. If they needed to download anything, they can just scroll down. Oh, I need to grab that inspection report. Here's that inspection report. They can also have access to the contacts. Looks like no contacts have been allowed access just yet. That's why it shows this particular screen. We have the tasks, if there were any tasks that we wanted to show, and notes, if there were any notes that we wanted to show. Again, I have tasks right now. I haven't checked off any tasks. I think I deleted most of them from the account. Yeah, so I don't have any completed tasks to push over. And when it comes to the contacts, I might not have given this agent permission to the contacts, or I might not have contacts that I want to share. Same thing with the notes. Right now, I think I have my notes excluded. So if I add, or I don't have any notes, looks like I don't have any note. So let me put in test, push that over. Once I add that on there, if I see this little dark exclude button selected, that means it's not going to show. This is excluded. It will hide this note from that other portal. This is internal only. When I click on it again and it goes light gray, that means, okay, that's fine. You can share this note. So if I head back over into our widget, I'm just going to go ahead and click somewhere else. That way we can reload the screen. Okay, we'll want to probably reload our people. Head back into John Doe. Let that load. Here's that note. So if you wanted to share information via notes, you could do that too. Let me know if that clarifies how to set up the widget, how to view the widget, what are the words. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Awesome. Yeah. I think the widget's like a really, really cool feature, not going to lie, but I see a lot of people end up having it like way, way down below. So I think that sometimes that's kind of the issue, right? Like we don't always think to like scroll down the page. We're expecting to see this kind of information. We want to see this at the top, right? Which is why I usually suggest, like drag that guy, bring them all the way to the top. That way, if you guys need to go through and you need to see it, you can. And you have that right up there at the top. Like I mentioned, there's some other really cool things happening with Follow-Up Boss and happening with some of the stuff that we've done before, which is like pushing over tasks one by one from open to close into Follow-Up Boss. Well, we finally figured out a way to get it that if an agent checks off a task within Follow-Up Boss to say you send one over, how do you know? We finally figured out a way to make that kind of feedback into open to close so you guys can kind of see the status for it. I've already set up this property to see what it looks like to push them over, but I'll go over from the beginning if you guys are interested. I know we don't have any questions right now, so if we have questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A, but if you guys want to see what this looks like, it's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. Okay, cool. No questions yet. Feel free to drop them in there. I'm going to go through this. We'll try to take our time with it. Now, with this particular setup, after we've made sure that people have access to the API profiles that they need to have access to, right? So we've gone to manage profiles. We've given them access underneath current connections. Ooh, awesome. Yes, Todd. Yes, we'll absolutely go through that. We'll probably go through it after I touch on the webhooks because it's pretty straightforward. I think it's straightforward. I know that it can seem very intimidating to like set up webhooks. Thankfully, though, our developers have made it very, very straightforward when it comes to it. So once you've made sure that everyone has access that they need to, we can head over to webhooks. This is something that most likely your admin will set up. We're going to be setting it up just once. That's all we really need after that point, specifically for that one integration that we're looking at. So I'm going to go over to Follow Up Boss. And then here I'm going to choose the API client that I want to select. So I can select one of these options here. I only need to create this once. So if you can see here, I've got this FUB at main account admin. That one's already been created. I don't need to create another version of it. I just need to create it the once. So here I can select another option if I want to. The website's by default. The title, what do I want to say? Task completed, task updated, whatever it needs to say. This is just for us to kind of keep in mind what this particular webhook does. We are planning on expanding it. So right now we say task completed or task updated because we're specifically talking about what's happening to that task. And then for the webhooks, it's updating that particular task. Once we've entered in those details, we'll say submit, and then it'll populate this right here. Now, the way to get this in, and it's a little mad at me because I haven't put in a title, and I don't plan on making anything for this CS at FUB account. I just need this main one here. Now you can turn it on or turn it off by using this switch right here. That's going to make it so that it's available for us to use. Now, I've been kind of playing around with this a bit since we've got this integration. I still don't know everything that's about it because it's stuff that we learn as we start to use the system live. That's kind of the best way I find to understand the system. So currently the way I have this property set up is that I have my webhooks built out onto my tasks already. So instead of having to one by one create it on my tasks when I'm on the property, I've just gone into my task templates, head down to the task template that I want to edit. I've clicked on this little drop-down arrow and I've added in the information for that Follow Up Boss webhook integration. So all I'm doing is going down to the one that I need to, and you guys might have seen me doing this a little bit before because I'm playing around with it. I want to get comfortable with using it too. Here, if we wanted to send this over, review transactions, send amendments to escrow. If we wanted to send this over to the buyer's agent, a seller's agent, maybe not the best example. Let's do the verify. Let's just send final walkthrough and closing reminders. Let's say we want our agent to handle that. We want them to call the buyer and say, hey, just want to make sure, these are the things that we need to get done. I'll see you this date. If that's the case, we're going to want to click on Follow Up Boss task prompt. Prompt will be shown when a task is added to a property. We're going to select what type we want to have it to be when it pushes over into Follow Up Boss. Usually you can say, follow up, call, email, appointment showing, whatever you need to here. So I'll go ahead and say it's a call that I want them to do. I want them to do a phone call. I can change the time if I want to. So let's go ahead and say, 8:30. And then I can also set a reminder. Do I want it to be 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 1 day before, 1 week before? We'll go ahead and say 30 minutes before. I want them to call around 8 a.m. or I want them to be reminded around 8 a.m. That they have to complete this task by 8:30. So now that we've set up that, we're going to go ahead and exit out of our templates. We're going to head over to that property. Now I've already applied this one, so I'm just going to really quickly reapply this particular template. I'm going to go ahead and click on Apply Template and apply this particular task template. Obviously, if you have it set up, you're filling out that intake form, this gets applied automatically. You don't have to do this step. This is just so that we can see what it looks like fresh. Now that I've done that, here we've got 4 tasks that need to be added to Follow Up Boss. I can click here And this goes through and it gives me the prompts. So it shows me here are the task titles. Here's what kind of task they are. Who do I want to push it to? So I can say I want to push it to my FUB main account. That's what I made that webhooks for. I can select the user that I want to push it to. Let's go ahead and say it's this one. If there's a webhook listener, which there is, we want to select that, task updated, and then we can search for our contact. So I'm going to find John Doe again. Here's John Doe, select them and say submit. And what that's going to do is that's going to take those particular tasks. It's going to push them over into Follow Up Boss. In Follow Up Boss, let me go ahead and go back to my people, refresh the screen. Under tasks, I believe they show up underneath tasks, because it's not underneath the widget, right? The widget's a separate thing. So let me drag my widget down below my tasks. Okay. Here we've got a bunch of tasks already on this particular property. We've got our added tasks there. I'm looking for my specific verbiage. Here's the webhooks test. So this one is the one that came over. This one says it's due September 10th or 12th at 8:30 a.m. Let's say that they completed this task. It has the property associated with it as well. They mark off this task. They've done it. Here's coordinate the walkthrough details, that other task that we pushed over. Send final walkthrough reminder. We'll go ahead and check off that task, and then verify that the walkthrough date and time has been scheduled. We'll check off that task. So those are the tasks that I pushed over from open to close into this Follow Up Boss user underneath the task view. When the agent has marked those as completed, we go back into open to close. And if we click on our little, I believe it's underneath our webhooks change here. So it's this little icon. It's like a little cube. When we click on that, we're going to see here, these are new ones that I've sent over. And we can see here, FUB task completed. Yes, we can see that it's been completed by our agents. We can mark these as red. If we'd like to mark them as red, they're going to switch from new to complete. Now we're still working through, kind of figuring out the best way to get this information translated. But right now, this is what we have as far as for kind of seeing, okay, what tasks have been completed by the agent that maybe will affect how we reach out to our clients as well, like to the buyers or to the sellers as well. But this is what that kind of notification would look like when a task has been completed by the agent and how it shows up in open to close. Do we have any questions about this? Okay. What I would suggest, if you guys are looking at it and you're like, I kind of want to play around with this. Number one, have a test contact within your Follow Up Boss account that you can use. Number two, feel free to play around with the different features. Like if you guys want to check out, webhooks change for any of the other tasks you wanted to push over, right? Click on assign task one by one. We can select who it is. We can go through and we can select, which, user we want to do. We can say that webhooks listener, this is doing it one by one on that actual property. Or like I said, you can set it up in your templates. I like the templates because it gives me that prompt and all of those rules of pushing that particular task over, they're already preset. So it kind of just saves me a little bit of clicking effort. But if you guys want to send them one by one still, definitely feel free to play around with that and see how that works. If there are any other questions about it, definitely feel free to reach out to us in support. I just thought it would be a good idea to kind of go through that, show what it looks like, show how it shows in Follow Up Boss so you guys can start feeling like, okay, cool. For me, it's really exciting if I'm being honest. Awesome. Let me know if there's any follow-up questions on that. Now, the other question that we had was, what does that client portal look like? I kind of want to talk about all the different types of portals that we have. That way you guys can kind of understand the differences and what are the use cases. So currently I'm logged into a portal. I'm logged into my open to close website. I am a user. I would be a team member. If we head down to our gear icon and get into organization and users, here, these are all my team members. Team members are paid user seats. Okay. So they're the people who are checking off tasks, sending out emails, reviewing intake forms, building out reporting, commissions. There's someone who's using the system actively to track that transaction. We've also got agent portal users. Agent portal users are free. You can add in as many as you need. When you go to invite that agent, underneath user type, you're just going to select agent portal user, and then you can give them access. The agent portal user does get a couple additional fun access things. You can either select their name here once you've sent them that invite, and you can update some of their user information. You can give them access to the intake forms. Once they've completed their setup, right? Once they've completed their profile, they've filled out their profile, here that you can also impersonate them by using these 3-line icons. I'm sorry, these 2 arrows twisting to each other. So I'll click on that. It's going to allow me to impersonate. I know I'm impersonating when I see that red bar at the top. That's how you know that you're impersonating. But all the information that's within this within this view is exactly what the agent would see. It's just the color of the top right here is like a dark blue, I think. I think it's like a dark blue color. Now, for the agents, when they're logged in, they're going to be able to see properties. They're going to be able to see contacts if you give them access to it. They're going to be able to see those intake forms or pending submissions. They're going to be able to share their API credentials with you. If you have a Stripe integration, they can set up a credit card in case they want to get charged or set it so that they can pay to fill out your intake form. And then they'll also have their settings, their own personal settings for their own personal profile. The other options, depending on what plan you're on, you might also have this little @ icon. This is the messaging feature. This messaging feature is available for those who are on the Scale account. So if you have agents who are like, maybe they don't prefer text messages or emails, they'd rather, message directly about the property. This messaging tool is a really cool tool for them to be able to send messages directly about the property. If we go over to our little house icon and we click on one of the properties, they're going to be able to see the timeline, details, documents, contacts, tasks, depending on what you want to give them access to will depend on what shows up here, emails, notes, and messages, if they have any messages. So you can see that there's a message right now. Hey, Justin, I haven't received the order for the home protection. Can you send that over? I'm going to go ahead and mark this as red because yesterday I sent over that home protection plan. I said, got you. And I sent that over. I could click on view thread to see what that thread looks like. So just some really, really cool things when it comes to like communication that's being built out in the system. This is a feature that can be used when you're talking to, team user to agent or agent to user or user to user. It's just an internal messaging system that we have. That's what that agent portal looks like. We've also obviously got our little notifications if there are any notifications, our little person icon that takes us to our profile, allows us to update our information there, allows us to update our email from here. Now, what is that agent or what does that client portal look like? We know what the team looks like. We know what that agent portal looks like. What does that client portal look like? I'm going to go ahead and unimpersonate. I'm going to head back over to our organization and users to really quickly talk about client portal roles. And then I'll show you guys what that looks like as a client. So I'm going to head down to organization and users, head over into our portal roles. Portal roles, these are going to be those additional client portal roles or client portal access that you can give. Now, something I want you guys to take notice of is that I don't just have clients in here. I don't just have a buyer or a seller. I've got lenders, I've got broker owner, I've got buyer, I've got buyer's agent, I've got co-agent, I've got every property role. And so the idea behind this is that you can invite more than just your clients, your buyers or your sellers to this. You can invite anyone who needs to see parts of the system. Now for my lender, if I click on them, I just need them to see the timeline, the details, and the documents. I need them to be able to upload or download documents. I might not even need them to see the details. Maybe I just want them to see the timeline, the documents, and have the ability to upload and download documents. For my buyer's agent, maybe I want them to only have access to the timeline and the details. Maybe this buyer's agent is someone who is not currently a user with your system. There's someone who reviews the information outside, right? There's someone who's like, oh, I'm interested in hiring you for your services. Can I see what it kind of looks like? You could create a buyer's agent role for that. I also have that buyer. And this buyer as well, once again, I'm determining what information I want to give them access to. Now, how do we see what that looks like? What does the buyer's agent actually look like? Well, the steps to give them an invite, there's 2 different ways. If you know that this is a person who needs a client portal invite to every single property that they're added to, I suggest going over to contacts, locating your person, Once you've located them, you go to Client Portal, you say yes, send automatic invite, and you choose the portal role that you want to choose. So if it's like a broker owner, or if it's someone who needs to see every property, right? It doesn't mean that it has to be a broker owner, but it could be someone, a team lead who wants, readable access to that property. You could select that here. So I could say broker owner. Every time implementation agent portal user is added, they're going to be also added as a client portal and get access this way. This would be setting it up automatically. Now on the property itself, going back to our dashboard, heading into our property, when we want to send that invite out one by one, we're just going to want to click on send portal invite. So we're heading to the contacts tab. We're locating that party member that we want to send the invite to, and we're selecting send portal invite. I've already sent out that invite over to my Hannah here. When I click on invited, here you can see first name, last name, pop in an email address, click on that portal role, add in a personal message. I usually send something like here's readable access to open to close. Let me know if you have any questions. We look forward to working with you. See, something like that, something basic, and you can send that invite. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen really quickly, and I'm going to open up what that looks like. Go ahead and do this. Perfect. So what does that email look like? This is what that email looks like. We're going to see here that it has, thank you for being a valued customer. It gives them their email, gives them their username, a password, and then it also prompts them to log in. What does it look like when they log in? So here, I'm going to go ahead and log out really quickly. Here, I've got that information set up already. We'll go ahead and say log in. This is what that client portal looks like. So here underneath the house icon, you can see that they only have a house icon. When they click on that property, here they have the same similar access as an agent would have when they view their own, except for some of the details are slimmed down. They don't see the notes. They don't see the tasks. That's because I set up that that client portal role to exclude tasks and to exclude notes. I just want them to be able to see the timeline. I want them to be able to see details if I need to give them access to details. And I want to give them access to the documents, uploading, downloading documents if they need to. They can also see the contacts on here. So this might be something that you'll want to consider whether or not you want to share it with them. It does show the seller. Do we want the buyer and seller talking? Probably not. And then we also have our messages, our internal messaging feature. So if you find that your agent, you have this one buyer, this one seller who really loves being involved with the transaction, they receive messages or they respond so much better when they log into their portal. You can also send that particular client portal user a message using that message feature if you're on the Scale account. Let me know if you had any follow-up questions, Todd, about what that profile looks like or how that works or other parts of it. Feel like that was pretty thorough, but just in case there's anything else, definitely let me know. I'll go ahead and stop sharing screen on this one. We've got another question and we'll go ahead and get back into our open to close account. Yeah, perfect. No worries, Todd. Yeah, let me know if anything comes up. And if anyone else has any questions about that client portal, what it looks like, what they need to do with it, any of that stuff, definitely feel free to drop those into the Q&A now. So this other question that we have, how can we edit or add fields? For example, open house date and time, and we can add the field to an email template. Perfect. So from the very, very beginning, adding or editing fields, if we're talking about we don't have an open house date and time and we need to add one in there, the first step is going to be going over to our hammer icon and getting into our field editor. The next step is determining where we want that open house date and time to live. So I'm currently looking at my transaction details. It might be helpful for me to put that information underneath my listing details. So I'm going to click on where it says field groups, and I'm going to go to listing details. Now that I'm on listing details, now I'm determining, okay, well, where do I want to put this open house due date? Do I want to put it underneath listing information, services provided, critical listing, or listing dates? Let's say we want to put it underneath listing dates, right? I'm just going to group all my dates together. I'll go ahead and click add field. Here, I'm going to add an open house date if I want to. That way I know that this is a date field. Pop that into my merge field. We want to make sure that those match. That way, when you're looking on your email templates, you know which field to look for. Here for field type, we're going to select date. And we can say, yes, a time is required for this. Now, this is just kind of like, how do I explain this? This doesn't make anything truly required, but it does kind of prompt you to add in a time for it. So I'll go ahead and say add field. It's going to add that field to the very top. Now we can determine if we want to add it to an API calendar. If it's purple, that means we're adding it. We can also give access to show this in the portals. So we can give that purple star. If this particular open house date needs to be added to your intake forms and you're not seeing it, right? You just created it. I would double check that you have that purple star enabled. Sometimes there are things going on with this particular purple star where it will or it won't, it may not show up on that intake form. So if you see that this is not enabled and it's not showing up on that intake form, we might need to come in here and click on that purple star. It's not something that I've seen in too many accounts. Most of you guys don't have that particular update, but some people do have that version where they need to make sure that that purple star is enabled. Just a clause. Now that I have that date on there, if I wanted to go into an email and create an email about opening houses, I'm going to go over into my templates and I'm going to go into my email templates. For me, I'm going to go ahead and sort my templates. Actually, let's go ahead and go into my categories really quickly. And let's see if I have listing templates. I don't think I do have any listing specific templates. Okay, I don't see any there. I'm going to go ahead and click on sort templates again. Just shows me all of my templates here. I'm going to type in listing. So I've got a couple of them. Let's see if I have an open house one. I don't think I have an open house one. Okay, I don't. Cool. So let's grab listing, request appraisal time, notify listing, confirm walkthrough, notify listing, fully executed reminder, loan. I'm just trying to see if there's another email that we can edit and add it to. Closing reminder. Nope. Okay, let's just create a new one. So I'll go ahead and select add new. I'm just going to call it open house notification. I'm going to pop on those, that kind of same naming convention that I have across the board. So I popped in open house notification, popped in that S. I'll go ahead and say submit. Now that I've added this in there, I'd probably want to categorize it. If I had a listing category, I'd pop it in there. I'm going to go ahead and create one right now. Now that I've created that one, I can go down to listing emails, OTC2, and select it. Now that one's added on there. And if I wanted to ever go back in and add in more listing emails, I have that category created. When I select edit on it, here I can choose who I'm sending this to. So let's do listing alert. Not sure what that would be, but let's go ahead and pop that on there. I'm going to grab a couple of them. Let's go ahead and BCC the sellers. And we'll CC the listing agent. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my sellers right now. Are they at the bottom? There we go. Sellers. And then we'll BCC that listing agent, or CC that listing agent. Here's that listing agent, listing co-agent, and we'll add on CC on all listing agents too. Cool. Now we pop in our values, right? Great news. We have an open house on. How do we get those merge fields in there, right? How do we pull that date and time in there? We're going to want to click on our 3-line icon right here. We're going to see that its fields is currently selected. That's what we want. Here underneath project user fields, we're going to type in open house. Here we have that date. We're going to click on it. It's going to copy that merge field to our clipboard. We can click into the page and we can either do Control V or right click and paste. I'm going to go ahead and say at open house at and grab that start time as well and paste that in there. And so now this is how you're getting those merge fields in there. From the beginning, you're adding in those merge fields, or you're adding in that field to that particular field editor underneath that particular field section. And then you're coming into your email templates and you're grabbing those merge fields and you're popping them into the email template. So to preview what this looks like, I'm going to go ahead and say open house, pop in a pipe, and then throw on my address as well. That way it pulls in my address too. To preview what this particular email template looks like, we're going to want to grab the name of the email template. And then let's go ahead and head to a listing and get some values in there. So let me go to properties. Let me go to my active listings. Let's go ahead and go to Sugar Oaks. We're going to go to our listing details. Looks like we don't have any on this one. Let me grab a different one. What about this one? Do you have listing details? Okay, I mean, nothing selected. Let's go ahead and go back to, let's try this one. I think my West Taylor one has listing details. Cool. Here's some listing details. I'm going to go ahead and select edit on the fields because I need to add that open. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I was supposed to click manage. My bad. I'm going to click manage. I'm going to add that specific field on there. So I'm just going to listing details. If you add in a field after a property's already been created, you are going to want to follow these steps to get that field onto that property. So here I found opening house date. I'm going to select that and select update fields. It's just going to reload. And now when I go to my listing details and I go down to listing dates, here's that open house date. We're going to go ahead and click on not set, and we're going to add in that date. So we'll go ahead and say it's for the 11th. And we're going to say that it's going to start at, let's say 8 a.m. You can add in an end time, another end time if you'd like to. It defaults to an hour. So if you're going to do it from 11 to, or 8 to 11, you can do 8 to 11. If you wanted to add it to an API calendar, you could add it to an API calendar. If you wanted to invite some contacts to it, you could invite contacts to it. Or if you needed to drop in an API calendar location, you could drop in a location. It's just going to default to the address though, if you don't put in a location here. We'll go ahead and say update. Now that value's on there, we see that date and time. We're going to go to emails. We're going to click on apply email template or apply template. Look for that particular email template. Here it is, open house, say apply. And then now this is what that email looks like. So it pulls in that date and that time. So that's beginning to end how we're creating the fields, creating that email template, adding in the merge fields, and then previewing it on a property. Yeah, of course. Now, obviously, there's another step that you might take. Typically, when you're previewing those emails, well, you created the email template, but you want it to be attached with your task templates. To do that, after you create that email template, we're just going to head over to our task templates. We're going to locate, I think I have a listing one in here. I think it's super basic. Here's my listing tasks. I'm just going to say send open house email. I'm going to say that it needs to be off of a property date. And I'm going to say that it's 3 business days before the open house. And so here I'm just creating a task. I'm scheduling it. I'm going to go ahead and say add. Here it is at the top. If I want to relate it to that email, right? That email template I created so that when I check off this task, that email goes out. I'm going to click on my trigger icon, click on add trigger. Say when I check off this task, when the task is marked as completed, I want to send out an email and say add. Here I'm going to apply that template again. Say apply. That email template's applied. And then I'm going to turn on that trigger. And now, whenever this task template, these listing tasks is added to a property, this task is going to be on there as well. 3 business days before the opening house date has been scheduled. When I complete this task, this email is going to go out to notify them that, hey, your open house is going to be on X date at X time. Cool. Looks like we have another question. I went in and colorized a series of inspection ordered fields. The colors aren't showing on existing listings. Is that expected behavior? Nope, that is expected behavior. So unfortunately, when we make alterations, and this is one of the reasons why I usually say like make those updates before you start adding in properties, like try to think of, and it's not easy to think of it, all of them, but whenever we make an update to colors on here or like add in fields onto here, if that field, or I should say colors, I think colors is a better example. Let me see if I have a field that I can do it with. I might not be able to recreate the exact situation that you ran into, Todd, but when we're talking about adding on color coordination to the fields, when it comes to the fields that have already been selected. So for example, if I add on a new one on here, this one's been added on here and I go to a property. Sugar Oaks Drive, and I go to that EDM status. I need to add it on here. And I select that testing one. And it's selected. I think it's going to stay as yellow because I have the background as yellow. Let me select it and say no color right now. Cool. So if I have that already set, right? And then you go into the back and you're like, oh, you know what? Testing should be red. And you go back over to that field, you click on EDM status and you update that color after the fact. We'll go ahead and say it's gray. Unfortunately, that doesn't filter back down to the property. At least it shouldn't. And if it does, that would be really cool if it did, but I don't think it's going to. Yeah. So unfortunately, it doesn't filter back to the property because that field's already been selected. There isn't like an auto sync from like if you've made updates to the fields and push back for the colors. But that is a good point. Maybe we should submit that, right? Whenever we make updates to the names of it, if I change it from saying testing to, if I change this from testing to I like nachos, it's not going to change it to, it's not going to keep it as testing. When I go back to that property, it was in the under contract one. Nope. Listing. It's going to change that to I like nachos, but you can see it still doesn't pull over the color coordination. So this might be a good thing for us to kind of bring up to our developers and say, hey, I know, yeah, I want nachos as well. It's almost lunch for me. You know, if you guys, if you're, I think that would be kind of like a good feature request, right? We have it that it updates the fields. We have it that it updates the field, the merge fields, but it does not add that field to the property if you create a new field. And if you add color coordination or you update the colors, it does not update it on the property, unfortunately. I don't even think me saying refresh the property is going to change it. I think I would have to click on it and select that drop down again for me to then see that color. See, even then it's not even doing it. And I think it's just because I selected a color here. It's like, you already selected a color. The color is going to be set type of thing. So it would just be a matter of reconnecting it. Cool. Awesome. Great questions, guys. Are there any other questions that you guys have for today? We have about 12 minutes left for today's webinar. Is there anything that anyone wanted to share? Anything anyone wanted to go through? Any wins that you guys had recently? Cool. All right, well, I'm going to go through some of the top FAQs that we had in support for this week. I'll just really quickly kind of look through and just make sure and see, you know, like what is it that most of our users are running into. If there are any other questions that you guys have, or if it sparks any ideas, definitely feel free to drop that into the Q&A and we can get to it. The first one, how to connect FUB. We kind of already went through that. So if you guys have any other additional questions, definitely drop that in there. It looks like there's been some questions about how to add in an email signature image. Now, I know that our email signatures are really cool and like you can add in a ton of like different things, right? You can paste in most everything into here. But if you guys are running into it where you paste it in an image and it's not working, it could be that the size of the image is a bit too big. That could be it. If that's the case, what I would do is if you have like an application like Adobe, or like a photo editor software on your computer, you can use that. You can also type in resize my image. And you can find an online one too. So it looks like Adobe offers it. Pick Resize offers it. Simple Image Resize offers it. There's a couple different options here for resizing that image, but most likely it just needs to get smushed down a little bit. I think that there is an image cap size in here. I don't know what that is though. I don't think we've ever tested to see what size it is. I would just bring it down by half and see what does the image look like? Does it still have the integrity of what it needs to look like? Or do I need to change it? And then kind of like see and go from there, like play with it a little bit, right? Because once you get your email signature set up the first time, like, you know, that's it. You don't have to come back in here again. So I usually say for things like this, take your time and make sure that it looks good. Take your time to put in some effort to make sure that that image, you know, appears correctly, that you're not getting any errors. Because once you set it up, then in the long run, it may have taken you 5 minutes to resize the image. That 5 minutes is saving you a lot of effort versus hours of it being broken. Oh, cool. Looks like someone else had so Todd had an issue where the image was super short and long. You can just paste into the window, but best advice, save it to a disk and search for it instead. Exactly. Yeah. You can definitely, like I said, copy paste into here, but also going to this little insert image and then uploading that image, or, if you have it like as a hyperlink, you can also do a hyperlink. That's what source means. You can grab a hyperlink and pop it in there. With alternative description and put in the width and height if you'd like to. But I think searching for that image and uploading it, that's going to be your best bet to get like a really crystal clear picture if you need to add one to your signatures. Cool. Yes. Yeah. I think, yeah. And I agree with, so Todd is mentioning too, plus you can set the width and height so your images are consistent. I think that that's really, really helpful because, you might have an email signature that like slightly bigger for some people when they're in, they send it out, and slightly smaller for other people. Having that consistency across the board for your team just makes your team look way more professional. Just because it means you guys took the time to make sure that your signatures looked good. Just adds, I feel like it adds like a little bit more of a personal touch to it as well when everyone looks uniform. Cool. So we've got another one. Email. Oh, okay. So you know what? I hear this one a lot. Email already exists when adding a user. I want you guys to take a look at something because I think it's really funny that I have this. When I go to my organization and users, the email that I have here is completely different from the email that I have underneath my email integrations. When I go to my email integrations, I'm going to go to email addresses. The emails that I have here, some of them are Hannah Hoxie at Open to Close. Some of them are Hannah Hoxie at Workflow Boss, or Hannah at Open to Close, or Banana at Open to Close, right? I have a ton of different iterations. And when I go to my properties, I also have iterations on my properties. Justin, that one is just a Hannah plus agent portal at Open to Close. So the issue that a lot of our users are seeing is that when they go to invite someone or add someone, or if they get that error where it says this email already exists, what we need to do is we need to kind of play with the system a little bit and create a quote unquote alternate version of that email. Either you're going to be reaching out to support to say, hey, this agent no longer works with this team. Can you release their email so that I can get them to my team so that they can use our intake forms? Or you can send them out an invite with their email still, but in a slightly different view. So the way that this works, this little plus agent portal, it's a really cool feature that's worked out with Google. It's something that I use personally, like in general, like in my personal life, I use this. It allows me to track that email address. So technically, Hannah plus agent portal at Open to Close is still my Open to Close email. If anyone emails that, it's still going to come to me, right? Still going to come into my inbox. It doesn't change my inbox. What it does instead is it changes and it creates an alternate version of that email that can be used. So in my personal life, I have like Hannah plus Hulu at gmail.com, Hannah plus Netflix at gmail.com. And the reason I do this is because it allows me to track where my data is being used. In Open to Close's case, it allows you to create an alias without having to, go into the steps of actually creating an alias for that particular email. So it's a super cool function. You'll need to make sure that you have that plus sign agent portal to create it, or plus sign whatever you need it to say. It could say Hannah plus sign Open to Close at opentoclose.com, Hannah plus sign nachos at opentoclose.com. I've got my brain on food right now. It could be Hannah plus the Holden team at opentoclose.com, right? So you could technically have different versions of that email, still goes all to the same email inbox, but it allows you to be able to kind of sidestep that, oh, well, this email address already exists or it's already in use. I see a lot of the time when clients, create an account, they've played around with things in the account, and then they realize they want to see what's in, they want to create another account, or they're helping out someone, and so they create account for them. You can still use that plus, and then whatever verbiage you need after that at Gmail or whatever your domain is. to create other accounts as well. So it's just a really cool tip to kind of segue that user email restriction that we have. Looks like another question that we had was connecting Google. It's pretty straightforward. I think we're going to head down to our gear icon, head into our apps and APIs. When we have it not connected, we're just going to go through the steps that it asks. So I'll go ahead and disconnect this one because it's okay. This is just a test one. We'll head back down to our gear icon, apps and APIs. We're going to want to follow the steps that it has here if you're a first-time user and you're connecting. If you've already connected, you just disconnected like me, you're going to want to go ahead and head into your settings and clear out some data and then reconnect. I'm going to go ahead and grab that link really quickly so you guys can see what that page looks like. This is what that page looks like. So as long as you can get into your Google account, get to third-party apps and services, head over to where it says open to close. If you've connected and disconnected, just like how I did, you're going to want to remove that open to close connection and then reconnect it. So what I mean by reconnect is once I've deleted this, I'm going to want to go back into open to close, say I've whitelisted and connect my Google, and then it should connect your Google and you shouldn't have any problems. If you do have any issues connecting your Google after the fact, you're still having issues with sending out emails or anything like that, definitely feel free to reach out to us in support. If you want to send a Loom video of these are the steps that I took and it's still not working for me, that's going to be what's going to make it easiest for us to assist you in getting that email set up. Because obviously your emails are pretty crucial to you guys being able to do most things in open to close. Cool. Let me see if there's any other questions. We are about 3 minutes before close. If there's anything else, definitely feel free to drop them into the Q&A. Otherwise, let me see. I think it's a couple more. Yeah, thank you for joining, Todd. And thanks everyone else for joining us too. I really appreciate all the questions. Always feel free to come in here and drop in whatever questions you guys might have. If you guys have questions and you're like, I don't think I'll be able to make it to next Wednesday, but I do want the information. If you submit them to support, say, hey, I have a couple questions for Wednesday workshop. They do get to me. That's kind of what some of these questions are. That's why I'm going through them. Let me see. So it looks like someone was asking, is there a way that I can download my contacts? Yes, you can download your contacts. If you need to, you're going to head over to contacts. You can create a specific filter if you'd like to, or if you just need to, bring in all your contacts, you're just going to scroll to the bottom and export CSV. If you don't have access to do that, just check whose table you're using. Because depending on what the table access is, like if I give access to implementation team and I don't give them access to export, when implementation team tries to use this particular table, they're going to be able to see it, but they won't be able to export the contacts. So if you do not see that export CSV at the bottom of your screen, just, you might need to reach out to whoever is the admin of your account and make sure that you have those. Otherwise, you can create a new table, create a specific segment and say, cool, I want to export these 2 users here. That's how we can export contacts from open to close. Looks like we got another one. Looks like we have a question that's asking, curious about if anyone's built the ability to use outside intake forms to pull info into open to close. Yes, we have. Most people are using things like Interface. Well, they're using products like Interface, so they don't have to recreate the wheel. But we also have different people that we work with who can set up those types of specific integrations as well. We work with, Daniel Poston. We've worked with Osiris. We've worked with the Bar Agency. For any of you guys who came to like the Battle of the Best, you probably saw some of that communication that we have between those teams. We work with them really closely. So if you guys are interested in outside intake forms, definitely feel free to reach out to us in support and we'll get you those resources. That way you can kind of figure out where to go from there. It just depends. Typically when you're using outside intake forms, you're gonna want to probably be on the Scale account. The reason I say that, or at least the Pro, and the reason I say that is because we're definitely going to want to utilize our webhooks. to bring in data, right, into open to close, or to update data in open to close. Webhooks is a pretty crucial part for using those external intake forms and populating them in open to close. So just something to keep in mind. You'll most likely want to be on the pro plan. If not, I am a big fan of our intake forms. If you guys are interested in trainings on our intake forms, we do have the webinars recorded online. But we also have webinars in general. So we're about at close. Let's go ahead and talk about what are the other resources we have within Open to Close. As usual, if you guys have any questions, you can definitely reach out to us by chatting with us here. If you're looking for more webinars like today's webinar, you can head to our website, go to Learn, go to Webinars, and here you're going to see our list of webinars. Next Tuesday, we're going to be going over Fields 101, and that following Wednesday, we're going to be going over emails, text messages, and messaging 101. If you're looking for that Wednesday workshop, they reoccur every single Wednesday. You can register here. When you register, it sends you an email with a calendar invite. You can totally add that calendar invite to your calendar. That's what I have to be able to access this training. Definitely feel free to poke through and see, okay, what are the other trainings coming up? Maybe I want to plan that in 3 weeks. I want to head into documents, or actually, this might not be actually a date that we're in office. I have to double check. I think that for the holiday, I think that we're closed on the 26th. I might be wrong. I can't remember when that holiday lands. It lands on Monday. So maybe we are open on the 26th. I have to double check. There's a couple of these that might not actually be happening. Continuing to scroll down, if you guys are interested, in January, we're going to be going over intake forms and property templates. If you guys are looking to kind of learn a little bit more about that. Other than that, that's what I thought. We have that off and we have a second off. Okay, thank you. Kelly just let me know that we do have the 26th off. So this one is going to be technically canceled, and the second is also going to be canceled. So we'll probably have to create a makeup session for this one if you guys wanted to cover any of that information. We also have, like I said, the recordings as well that go over how to edit, customize, and create that intake form. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you for hanging in there with me and staying over for a couple minutes. Like I said, if there's any other questions, you can definitely still drop them into the chat. Other than that, I really appreciate you guys coming today. Thank you for all the questions. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will hopefully see you next week.